Hello and welcome to the Revs Live podcast, your spot for all things Georgia Revolution FC and the NPSL Southeastern Conference. I am Ryan Maletsky and I'm joined with Justin Murphy. This is your broadcast team for all Georgia Revolution matches on YouTube and MyCuchu TV. Georgia Revolution FC is set to start their NPSL Southeastern Conference season 7:30 on May 4th at home, Henry County High School Stadium against Greenville FC. We'll preview that match later in the episode, but first we're going to talk ADASL as our Revs reserve team won the ADASL championship, getting them ready for the U.S. Open Cup qualifiers. We'll talk to Scott Redding, player and head coach of the reserves team, and also later in the episode we'll talk to NPSL Southeastern Conference head coach, Coach Steo, also assistant coach for Georgia Gwinnett College. Yeah, and diving in the ADASL first, and of course later on in the episode we'll preview our first NPSL match, which is Saturday, May 4th at home at Henry County High School against Greenville FC. Back-to-back home openers against Greenville FC. But for the ADASL action, we won the Division I championship, which gave us a check that'll put us into the U.S. Open Cup Open qualifiers. That's a big step for the reserve side, as Georgia Revolution can possibly have two clubs in the U.S. Open Cup next season. So, Justin, you were there for all of the games this year, or you were there for the entire season. What did you see from the club, and how was our reserve side looking throughout the year in the competitive ADSL?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I'll have to say, the ADASL is a very competitive league. As a matter of fact, just a couple days ago, it was given, USASA Premier State League status. So,
which is the same as the Gulf Coast Premier League status-wise.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and so it's a very highly competitive league. And starting out the season, we kind of started slow. Three of our three first games were against teams that finished in the top four with us last season. So we started the first game of the season against the defending two-time back-to-back defending champion Majestic SC, which is always a solid club. And we lost, 2-1. Really, really tough fought game. But in the end we couldn't come out with it. Then the next game we played Revs, who finished right below us last year, and we were up 2-0, and we ended up tying 3-3. So, we got 1 point out of 4 to start the season. And, so it was a really slow start, but the guys really came together. They bunkered down, and, they just kept winning. And at the end of the season, when we were beat up, we were very injury-plagued this year. Our coach, captain, Scott Redding, that you'll hear a little bit later on the podcast, he actually broke his arm from a shot. Went down, was out for the remainder of the season, but he was able to coach on the sidelines. And, we also had a guy get a broken nose. We lost another guy to our goalkeeper, actually, in one of our pivotal game, our championship game, to clinch it. Went out after 10 minutes after getting hit in the chin and splitting open. He had to go to the hospital and get stitches. His jaw was dislocated. So, the team faced a lot of adversity throughout the season. And, for them to, come out and get the goals we needed when we needed late in the season against, a Majestic and a Vahai and a Revs, and to see, not only the reserves, but we had a bunch of 23s that came up also from our second team in the second division of ADASL that came up and fit right in. I mean, almost as if, we didn't lose any depth. So, overall, a great season. I mean, obviously winning the championship is great. The guys fell a little short in the Parent Cup. But, next year, hopefully we can get, a run going there. Because, our first season, we finished in the semifinals of the Parent Cup as a D2 team. And the last 2 seasons in the Parent Cup, we've crashed out in the second round. So, a lot of times, it comes down, to injuries and just focus sometimes. I think we put a lot more emphasis this year on winning the title, league title overall. But, winning the league and getting an opportunity to play in the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, it's qualifiers, but, our club has a rich history in the Open Cup. We have a winning record all time. And to get back to it, we haven't been to it since 2013. So, just even if it's qualifiers, just being associated with that tournament, is prestigious for us. And, hopefully we can get, a good run going in it.
Yeah, and teams in the ADSL have found success in Open Cup qualifiers. Last year, Majestic SC, as we before mentioned, they went all the way up to the final round of qualification, and they actually only had 11 men take the trip to Nashville to play a team out of Nashville that had a full roster. Only 9 Majestic players made it, and they went to penalty kicks. So that just shows you how high the level of ADSL soccer is compared to the other teams in the Open Cup qualification in our region, and how far the reserves can go in the U.S. Open Cup qualifiers. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch and keep an eye on, and the Revs have a bright future ahead when it comes to the Open Cup.
Yes, the reserves definitely have an opportunity to make some noise, but at the same time, we do have 2 other teams in the ADSL, Division 2. We have the U23s and the blue team. Both teams finished mid-table this year, unfortunately. The Blues actually finished 1 point ahead of the 23, so that actually means our third team in the ADSL finished 1 point ahead of our second team. So the 23s weren't too happy about that, but you can't really blame them. I mean, almost half of our 23s were getting called up constantly to the reserve squad to help them out. So our 23s were missing, many of their key players throughout the season. So, but I will say at the end of the season, the 23s won 5 of their last 6 games to finish really strong and make a run at the blue team. So, to see them finish like they did after such a rough season, it just speaks to the resilience again, which seems to run through our entire club, whether it be the NPSL all the way down, to the blue team and the ADSL and even our youth teams with our youth academies that we have partnerships with Nexus and AFC Lightning. Those guys will go down and fight. So, it's kind of like an identity throughout. But yeah, it's good to see that all of our teams are having some sort of success throughout the entire ADSL. All right, we're here with Scott Redding, the man we call the myth, the legend, the old guy in town. Was this 9th year?
8th or 9th. I lost count.
All right, well, he is the head coach and player, actually, of our ADSL Revs Reserves team that just recently won the ADSL Division I championship. So what do you think? You like it? What's your expectations for the Open Cup coming up?
Well, I mean, I think I always have a lot of confidence in my team. I've been obviously working with some of these players for several years now, and we were on the edge last year. This year, we reached our goal with 2 games in hand. So, I mean, I'm very proud of them. I have a lot of faith in them. I expect us to go very, very far.
Yeah, there's a lot of development with this team and seeing the guys, grow, especially the 23s. You have any comments on, how well the 23s came up and played for the reserve team under pressure?
Well, I've often told our guys, I actually prefer us to have won the title the way we did, because near the end we had a lot of players who had maybe international duty or, they were off out of country with work. And so the 23s came through in a huge way, and we didn't lose a step. In many ways, I can definitely say we actually picked up pace. So, I mean, the job that Alec has done with the 23s, the job that Dwayne has done as well, I mean, it is a club win, not a player, not a single team. It's definitely a club win.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I like personally with our ADSL squads is everybody's connected. One of the things I really liked when we did win the trophy, it wasn't just the reserve team that got to hold the trophy and take pictures. It was 23s. It was everybody. And like you said, it's a club effort. And I think things like that can make playing for a club like this, it's a player-centric club, fun, and we'll get people wanting to come play. It's a special place. So just as far as next year, what are your expectations? I mean, obviously, we'd like to win it again. But, maybe, what are your thoughts on maybe making a double run next year, getting the Parent Cup and, the D1 championship?
Well, I mean, I would say our club is positioned just from top to bottom. We have so much support from our general manager. And the thing is that, if anything is healthy, it continues to grow. And I think our club is growing. When you achieve the success that the guys have done, you draw in more talented players. They bring their friends. And so there's no reason in my mind for us to take a step backwards. I intended for us to win both the Parent Cup and the division title this year. We fell a little bit short, but for me, that's fine. That's a growth opportunity. And so I think next year that is going to be our goal. And I would be, it would be a letdown when you are Georgia Revolution if you don't achieve that. So.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let me get your thoughts on a couple of the guys that are moving up from the reserves to the NPSL squad. Guys like Ryan Pugh, Sajad Delaney. Just what do you think? Their progress was throughout the season that allowed them to make it up to this top team.
Well, I'll say, the names you like, Sajad, Ryan, Rodrigo, those guys, in my mind, they are professionals, right? And the thing is that sometimes it just takes a while for other people to notice, or the opportunity hasn't been presented to them. So I'm in no way surprised that they're at their progression through the team. And I would be, if I was a coach of a professional team otherwise, I would be looking to bring them even further forward. It's been a joy to work with players like that, and I look forward to watching how far they go.
Well, thank you. It was great having time with you. Like having the fellow old guy around. And for those who don't know, me and Scott are probably one of the only two people, other than maybe some other people that might be on the team this year later, that have been associated with the club since it started. He is Mr. Georgia Revolution, however. He's played all the years up until now, and I just started out as a fan, but I've gotten more involved here. But it's good to know that there's continuity within the club. That's always a great thing to have. But thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And we actually lost a lot of our audio from a corrupt file, so unfortunately we lost Justin and I's conversation previewing the 2019 season, but I'll kind of go over it for a second. So Georgia Revolution FC, they have a partnership with Georgia Gwinnett. Our head coach, Coach Steo, he actually is the assistant coach at Georgia Gwinnett, which is an NAIA school, and the cool thing with that partnership is usually with NCAA programs, your coach can only work with 5 players from that college in the off season. But with NAIA players, you can work with as many as you want. And NAIA players are older. NAIA players are internationals. They don't have international rules. NPSL doesn't have international restrictions. So they can incorporate the NAIA a lot more and use that to their advantage. And that's something that Georgia Revolution has done the past 2 seasons. And so we have players like Jack Gurr, who was at Georgia College last year. He graduated. He's back on the team. He's probably going to be one of our best players this season. He was an absolute stud last year. He played right back. He can play midfield. Very talented player. Creates a lot of everything we're doing going forward. And Jack Gurr's back this year. He actually missed the playoffs last season, and I believe if Jack was here for the playoffs that we could not only have beaten New Orleans, but I think we could have beat Chattanooga as well and possibly push for a championship here in the Southeastern Conference. But Jack Gurr's back, and also Tony Tiense in our midfield, he's back. Alahagi Tamanuhu, he's back. He played with Atlanta United Academy, and now he's in his second season at Georgia Southern. Very talented player. He actually won the Georgia High School state championship a few years ago when he was in high school as a senior. He played phenomenal in that match. And then we bring back Sagi Hirsch on the back line. We bring back Rodrigo Gonçalves, who played in the back line when we needed him to last year. He also stepped up in the midfield, was a very versatile player. We do lose Isaac Promise. He's playing at Austin Bold FC. We lose him and Jason Henry, who spent time at Mercer and Penn State. And EJ is a great forward. Jason Henry is now in a promotion relegation battle in Spain, where he's playing professionally in the Spain pyramid. And Isaac Promise, as I mentioned earlier, he's with Austin Bold in the USL Championship along with Clayton Adams, who actually came off our bench last year, and he's now on a USL Championship side. So very cool to see those guys. Alex Harley, who was a force in our midfield last year, created a lot of chances, scored a great goal against Chattanooga. He's playing with Las Vegas Lights FC, which is Eric Winalda's team. He's head coaching them. And Alex Harley actually scored a goal against MLS side Toronto FC in a friendly before the season. So it's cool to see a lot of guys having success after their time with the Revolution. We see Steve Celesso at Lansing Ignite looking like one of the best players in USL League One, and Steve actually played with LAFC for a little bit before his time with Lansing Ignite, and then Adam Kamara is playing in the 3rd division in France, and he's tearing it up there as well. But I think the Revs bring back Aaron Witten, just naming a few of the other guys who bring back Dion McCulley. But overall, I think the Revs have brought back more players that were in big-time starting positions than any other team in our conference. I think we have more chemistry. We also brought up a lot of guys on the ADASL side. So I think especially right off the bat, when teams don't know each other and they're just getting in off planes days before the season, the Revs already have that chemistry and they already know how to play with each other. So I think we're going to have a leg up against Greenville. That's a very good sign for this Revolution squad. And then looking at Greenville for a moment, Greenville FC brought back Toby Sims, a absolutely fantastic center back. He's one of the best center backs in the conference, one of my favorite players to watch. And Toby really controlled the pace for Greenville, who played a little bit more counterattack and they sat back a little bit in their play last season, in their inaugural season, and he controlled everything Greenville did, and their success ran through him, and they bring back Paul Tyson, a goalkeeper, and besides that, they don't bring back many players. Malcolm Frago, one of their best players, he was a right winger who created a lot of their chances. He's gone to play professional ball overseas. And then we see guys like Lawrence White, who's one of their midfielders. He's playing with Atlanta United 2 right now in USL Championship, and he's having a lot of success there. So Greenville does lose a lot of their forwards as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but they had a lot of turnover from year to year. They brought in a lot of Clemson guys. There's a lot of unfamiliarity with Greenville, and I think we're going to learn a lot about them in the first game, so it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. And then some of the guys that Georgia Revolution FC have added in the offseason, we added Blake White, a striker at UAB. He's actually from the area. He's a local guy that played at UAB, and he also played at Atlanta United Academy with Alhaji Tamanuhu. And I think Alhaji can fight for a starting spot this year. He has a lot of experience at Georgia Southern under his belt now, and last year he was very talented. He just didn't fit in with chemistry, and I think going into his second season with the Revs, Alhaji can stand out. And some other names we announced later on throughout the week for Georgia Revolution. Of course, you know that with the roster rules, the NPSL, guys are getting signed last minute. They're getting their forms through, and teams want to keep their star players kind of secret. So we're not really going to know the full roster of any teams until Saturday, May 4th. The other NPSL Southeastern Conference game that is this weekend is Atlanta SC, which used to be the Silverbacks, and they're taking on Nashville in Nashville. And those are two teams we don't know much about their roster. We'll talk about those teams later on in the season when the Revs are approaching games against them. But for now, let's talk about the changes in the conference. New Orleans Jesters leave the conference as they're looking for professional ambitions, and Emerald Force leaves the conference to focus on their youth academy. So a little bit of turnover in the Southeastern Conference, and it looks like it will be a 6-team conference, but it looks like there's going to be a 4-team playoff with semifinals and then a final, and all 3 of those matches will be hosted by the highest seed, so hopefully the Revolution can host the playoffs for the first time in history. And now we're going to talk to Georgia Revolution FC head coach, Coach Steo.
All right, we're here with second-year head coach Steo, coming off pretty historic season last year, winning our first playoff game. Expectations going to be pretty high this year, so what do you think about it?
Well, first off, thank you for the invite up here, guys. Appreciate you all. Your question, what are my expectations? I expect this very group to do very well this year. We're not going to give you specifics on our targets just yet, but we expect to work hard and put a good performance on the field every single game. And, you know, we want to come out flying out of the traps next weekend. We play Greenville at home at 7:30 in Henry County High School. And all our focus is on that. And obviously today we have our last, warm-up for the season against our reserves, who are a very good squad. So we look forward to getting this out of the way, hopefully preparing as well, and hopefully put on a good show next week.
So you say this is, the last warm-up game. Just as much as you can you let us know how the squad has performed so far here in the preseason and, how comfortable you are with it?
I can. The squad has performed very well thus far, and the reason being is we're kind of square peg in circular holes in a lot of situations, meaning A lot of our guys haven't actually arrived in town just yet, so we have guys playing out of position in new positions. We've got guys that are still trying out, being honest, and we're trying to give the very best opportunity to everybody to be successful. So, based on the expectations and the performances so far, very happy. But again, when we see the whites of their eyes of everyone who arrives between tomorrow and the day after, Sergio's calling me here, then I can actually give you a more calculated assessment on, how we're going to be this year. But so far, it's so good, and I'm very happy.
All right, Coach, and we've seen across the league a new trend in NAIA coaches that are taking over NPSL clubs. Another success story would be an AFC in Arbor in the Great Lakes, where Coach Rudlin is an NAIA coach, and he's found a lot of success in the NPSL. And you were a new coach last year for Georgia Revolution, and you have experience working with Georgia Gwinnett College and NAIA. What does that bring that's kind of different to the table, and how does that set for success where you can have guys like Jack Gurr and Sagi Hirsch and others that work with each other throughout the year and then have the opportunity to play in the NPSL season? How does that give you a leg up on other opponents?
That's a good question. Well, first and foremost, I think the NAIA is a fantastic level. The difference between NAIA and the NCAA, obviously, is a lot of it is to do with the age. We're playing guys that may be 27, 28, 29 years of age, whereas the multitude of NCAA programs can't actually get that. They have younger ages. So first off, you're getting straight away, you're getting experience and a more cultured, men's game. Next, obviously, the NPSL is a higher level to what the college offers. So for me, it's a very easy carryover from NPSL into the NAIA into the NPSL. Straight away, you're getting cultured, experienced men. And being honest, there's enough very good players in the NAIA. You could make a team solely based off NAIA players, and you could go and compete for a national championship. I've absolutely no. So there's different ways. As I say, there's many ways to skin a cat or a sheep or whatnot. But our method is we like to have a few NAIA players, and then disperse. We take a few NCAs, and then just guys that are from the area, and then obviously your special, your local guys. We try blend it all in together. So I'm just, as you can see, I'm keeping an eye on my guys. None of them are warming up right now. I'm a little bit upset with them, but I'll go have a word with them in a second. But no, good question. But we're very happy that the NAIA can represent itself in the NPSL league.
All right, so we got one last question. I'll let you go scold the boys.
Tony, let's go.
So Saturday, first game, Greenville FC. Now I know this league has, a good reputation of a lot of turnover from year to year. Coaches turnover, players turnover, but just judging by last year, what can you say about Greenville? Are you comfortable with, thinking what they're going to do, or is it, one of those things where you're just going to have to, figure it out in the first 15 or 20 minutes and go from there?
Well, Greenville are a fantastic franchise, first off. The infrastructure and the foundations that they've already built in one season is fantastic. I mean, they have a crowd and attendance at every game, which, you don't. There's some USL games that don't even get that attendance. So that's first off, that's fantastic. I know the coach, their head coach personally. He's a good guy and a very good coach. And he's also a good recruiter. So I know it was only going to take him a year or two to get set and get a very strong squad. I have absolutely no doubt they've only just gone and improved what they had last year. Obviously, the experience of them playing in the league last year will help them, give them a good reference point to compete. But being honest with you, mate, we don't set up in reference to the opponent. We set up our own game. We've done that from day one. We will continue to do so. We want to attack. We want to be on the front foot. It's in our DNA. It's in my DNA. It's in our staff, and it's in our players. So we won't be setting up in reference to them. We hope not just them, but every opponent has to basically set their game plan up in reference to us. So that's our approach, and we won't change that for anyone. I just hope this year we will be a little cleaner defensively. You guys knew, a blind man would tell you, we knew we were going to score goals. The area that I thought we could have improved on was defensive shape and defensive organisation. One of the issues that we had last year is, you guys remember it, we had a different back four and a different goalkeeper every single week. So what we've tried to do this year is make sure that we have a similar back four, or at least a similar back 5 or 6, whatever guys, and they're there week in, week out, and then also maintaining the correct number one week in, week out. So that's been our focus this year. And hopefully that will allow us be at least a little bit more successful.
Thank you for your time. Good luck in the scrimmage, and we'll talk to you probably next week.
All right, thank you so much for listening to the first episode of the Revs Live podcast. Make sure you're following Justin Murphy on Twitter at jmurph_03. Make sure you're following the podcast at Revs_live, and then myself at Riley Maletsky. That's MALEITZKE. And make sure you come out to the first game, May 4th at Henry County High School, 7:30 against Greenville FC. Going to be a great match, fantastic atmosphere. Make sure you get there early and be loud and proud. And if you can't make it to the match, make sure you're following that Twitter page, like I said earlier, Revs_live, for all the details surrounding the broadcast that me and Justin will be commentating on. Once again, thank you for listening all the way to the show, and we'll have another episode out next week. Go Revs.